onto the cloud. And then let me also allow you to share screen. All right. I think we're good to go.
Okay. If you want, guys, I can start.
Do we need to share the Miller note or the Figma file or anything, or is it just getting straight in?
Yeah, we can. I'm going to open it then. The Figma would be nice to see the design. There. I open it and I'm going to share the screen then. So this is our design. And my issue was to create the buttons. As you can see here, there are two types, let's say. One is bigger, wider, and one is a bit smaller because of what it says in the button. So this is our version. This will be like the bigger button, these two. And if I go here, I'll have the button that's a bit smaller, and I can start adding items, and I have the add button as well, which has a hover state and also a focus state to take into account accessibility. So whatever I add, you have it. It's really simple, it's just buttons. And then the code, what I did was we started discussing this all together with the four of us, and then I continue with it, and we share other tasks with Debbie and Reda and Toby. And here simply created a component called buttons and accepted whatever data or function we had as props, and used a bunch of Tailwind classes to style it. And also because the buttons had different widths, I thought it was a good idea to pass the widths as a prop. So it is there. And yeah, so this is a component. And here, for example, I call the component and I pass the width and the text and our functions. And the same, for example, for this add button. So the button is always reusable. And yeah, that is it.
Thank you, Shimon.
You're welcome.
Good job.
There's Reda.
Can you any comments with this issue?
I don't. I just want to add that I'm stunned by the Figma file. Can you please show it again? And who created this? Debbie, did you create this? Oh my God.
I know Debbie.
Debbie's really talented.
Yeah. I mean, I can barely use Figma. It's a very difficult tool. So somebody who can use Figma, that's a really great skill. And I suppose the final version will look like this. So now it's a work in progress, and you are going towards this. Okay, so how are you planning to go? You have a Figma file. So how are you planning to go from the Figma file to the HTML, CSS, JavaScript version?
We've planned 4 issues for next week, which kind of, one's like the image and header. I can't remember what the other ones are, but they're all kind of broken down to all those different components and to finish stylizing that all. And then we'll come back together at the end to kind of finish off the rest of it.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
And we did that also last week. I did the buttons, Debbie did something else, Reda and Toby as well. So yeah, and last Friday we met again via Zoom and discussed what should we done next week and how we are going to share it, and well, we are going to create tomorrow the issues, and we are going to take each one of them.
So I mean, I don't have anything else to add. It's a work in progress. So obviously some things were misaligned, etc. But I mean, that's very normal. So really awesome job.
Thank you.
Shall I share next?
Okay.
So I worked on the Navbar and the items to make more look like that. So with the Navbar, we've got the width. We're not sure if we're going to keep it full width, the color. We've not decided yet, but we decided on the icon and the text. And you can click on either. Got a bug here. Need to fix that next week with that checkbox. But yeah, so you can flick between this and item. And then for the items, we've just changed the color depending on which category it's in. So if I go over to the code, move this thing out of the way. So for Navbar, we've got the fixed at the bottom with the width that's full at the moment. We'll see if that changes, and the color. And then we put a flex box on this to justify them center, so everything lines up. And then I've changed the font size of the icons, so they're bigger. And then again, with the columns and item center, so they're perfectly aligned. And with the list items, so we've added flex box again and justify between, so that the delete button is on one side and the checkbox and label is on the other side. We've made them rounded, and then we did the get item category. So I've kept that in the CSS down the bottom and just changed all the colors. So they are still Tailwind colors, but I've just put the hex codes in. And then down here, I've put the button inside a div because when it was just a button, it wouldn't justify between. Like I merged it, and then the delete button was like in the middle for some reason. So I put it in a div so that the delete then goes to the end. And that's it.
Okay, thank you, Debbie. Good job. It's Figma file fix select very well. I like it. Thank you very much, Debbie. Have you any comments?
I want to add something. Also, great job from me too. And but when you were showing the nav link, I saw that you had two nav links and they had identical CSS. So maybe it will be nice to have a class there. Just saw it and just want to keep it in mind. Like Reda did somewhere, he used apply because there was a bunch of Tailwind, what do they call, not modifiers or directives, what do they call these class names that Tailwind has? Anyway, you get it, all these elements. And so he grouped them together. That was really cool.
Reda is not show your shop. Anyone volunteer?
Yeah, I think he said his network is bad, and he was wondering if Debbie or Imena can take his own part, the input or something.
Okay.
And Jimena just typed that there's something off with her Zoom. So something's happening today.
Where's the code, Reda? And then I'll share it.
There. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Back again. I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on.
Hi, Reda. Or Toby.
Reda is saying
Okay.
his
I'm
internet is
using my
good.
phone, so I can't access the code, but I'll get it through my issue. But let me share my screen on what I did this week. Okay. Okay. So the checkbox had a bug. Like when you click on it, just when you click on the delete icon, it checks the checkbox. So I was supposed to fix that. So initially I used event dot stop propagation, but brother brought it to my notice that that was not necessary. So I just wrapped the icon, the delete icon, in a button and added the on click event in the button tag instead of the icon. So now when I click on delete, let me say Coca-Cola, and I cancel it, the checkbox is not checked. So that was what I fixed. Now let me try accessing my code. Yeah. Um, it's really difficult doing it with my phone. Okay. Oh, yeah, it says the full request. Okay. So okay, so yeah, so initially I used from the line 670, I used e dot stop propagation because I wanted to like stop the propagation. When you click on the delete icon, it doesn't like move to the parent element. So when I did that, Trader brought to my notice that it wasn't necessary, that once I wrapped it in a button tag, it was just going to sort it. So I just wrapped it in a button tag. I think this is the older commit. I'm sorry, so let me get the newer one. Okay. Mm. Okay. Mm. Okay, so I shifted the on-click event to the button instead of the icon. So that just made it better. And now when you click on the icon, it works the way it should. It doesn't check box. So that was basically all I did. Yeah. So that's all.
Thank you, Lede. The last bug fix because of you write on click events on the icon. You move the this on click event button and issue fix.
Yeah. I moved the on-click event from the icon to the button.
Okay, thank you. Maybe any comments?
I just want to say that you're amazing for sharing your code and the app on your phone because you don't have your laptop available. And yeah, it's good that you all, not all of you focused on styling and you also fixed the bug. That's very good that you realized it and you focused on that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. This week's be not any presentation learning module. That's right. Because Enriv presents before. We go to the what session?
Sorry, aren't we doing the accessibility module today?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Okay, is that all for the demo?
I know.
I think Reda's internet is not working. If you want, I can try demoing. I'm sorry, are you there, Reda?
Yeah, I'm here, but I barely can hear you also. I guess when I share my screen, I don't think you will hear anything from me. So my Zoom is freezing. I can give it a try, or if him. Okay, that will be great. Thank you, Jimena.
Yeah, I'll do the best I can. I'm going to explain it very shortly.
Thank you.
Basically, let me share the screen otherwise. So let's see, maybe the Figma. And yeah, these are the inputs. Reda was in charge among other things about on the inputs. And let's go to the code. What he did was to here use the apply directive given by Tailwind, and he gave the bunch of styles from Tailwind that will be shared in all the inputs with the apply directive, the border, the color of the border, the radius and the padding and else. And he gave this a class of input. So wherever he had an input, he wanted with that style, he just put the class of input. Yeah, there, for example, or here as well. And that was very clever of him to find and solved another problem we had before we changed in. We wanted to have a component, but it was, in the end, it wasn't the most effective solution. So he came up with this one, which I think is very an elegant, very clever solution. So this is what I have to say about this issue.
Thank you. Thank you, Reda. Good job. But I'm not prefer these apply directives. In my opinion, very cognitive. If I use this directive, apply directive, sometimes I'm not find how to this styles changing. I'm not support this directive in my opinion, but this is good. Good for
Did they apply? Is it the class name impute or the apply?
Yeah. I'm used direct class name, but it's good for you.
I don't, yeah,
It's just,
I don't really
it's a way
understand
to,
why.
I think the apply is a way to apply so many like class names that you want to apply to so many elements all over the app. You can bring all of them together and then call them one thing. In his case, he just called them impute instead of putting the whole class name and then repeating all over and over again everywhere they had the impute box. He just extracted it and then called it impute. So I can easily pass the class name of impute. Even though the class name might be a little confusing, seeing that the tag is already called impute with small letter. But I think they probably, if you name the impute style, it'll be more descriptive, but the extracting is actually nice instead of having to write long class names all over and over and over again.
Reda is asking if we should change it in the chat.
No, if you want to change, it's more better, in my opinion. But the code is working.
Yeah, okay.
So how was Zipu's experience using Tailwind? Was it your first time? Did you have to learn it and then before applying, or were you already used to it before now?
I used it a little bit before, never with a React app, but I used it a bit and I like it. It makes me like CSS.
It's really nice and straightforward. Yeah, good job. I really like your design and then how your app is coming together. It's really nice to see. So next week, you'll now focus on completing the remaining designs and no longer like going through Tailwinds or having to install it. You laid the basis this week. All right.
Okay, Golfo, any comments? Do you have comments?
Nope, I just want to ask about Tailwind, but Jamaka already asked, so nothing from me.
Okay, this week's demo is finished, in my opinion, finished. Next week, we do collaborates to some issue writing before. That's right.
Yep,
It's actually us that will do the report. You mean the article? It's with the mentors that will write the article. We'll just go over the learning module now, and then that will be all for this. You just continue with what you already have for the issues.
Unless you have some question about the issue or something, but in general, the issue is make a nice design and make it accessible. As I wrote in the code review, don't forget to use the tool with the colors to check if the contrast is okay. So just keep that in mind. And also today we're going to look at accessibility. So we'll learn a few more things. I will share my screen. Okay. So accessibility, what, why, and how by the Collab Lab. So accessibility equals ally, and it explains here how this 11 occurred. So it's A, Y, and 11 letters in between. So in case you were wondering how that became a thing. And here we see what web accessibility is. It's the inclusive practice of ensuring that there are no barriers that prevent interaction with or access to websites on the World Wide Web by people with physical disabilities, situational disabilities, and socioeconomic restrictions on bandwidth and speed. When sites are correctly designed, developed, and edited, generally all users have equal access to information and functionality. The W3C maintains a working group dedicated to web accessibility and publishes related standards. In the US, Section 508 requires government agencies to make websites accessible to people with disabilities. So we see that in some cases, accessibility is not only a nice to have, in some cases it's mandatory and it's required by the law. And some people with disabilities access websites using assistive technologies. These include the screen readers, screen magnifiers, speech input, assistive keyboards, and Braille, I think that's how it's pronounced, displays. And popular screen readers include NVDA and JAWS on Windows and VoiceOver, which is built into macOS. Why should we pay attention to web accessibility? It's the right thing to do to provide equitable access to information. You may be legally obligated to make your website accessible. More people in the US access websites with assistive technology than live in Canada. Some estimate that 20% of website visitors have some sort of disability. I didn't expect it to be this much. And making your pages more accessible for people with disabilities makes them more accessible for everyone. So if you keep accessibility in mind, it's better even for people who don't have a disability. And we use a persona spectrum to understand related mismatches and motivations across a spectrum of permanent, temporary, and situational scenarios. So we can see that for touch, permanent disability is somebody that has only one arm. Maybe a temporary situation is an arm injury. And the situational scenario is a new parent. So the moment they are holding their baby, they can only use one hand. For seeing, somebody who is blind has a permanent disability. Somebody with a cataract has a temporary disability. And a distracted driver has a situational disability. With hearing, it's being deaf, having an ear infection, or being a bartender. And with speaking, it's somebody who is nonverbal, so they can talk, somebody who has laryngitis, and somebody with a heavy accent. So we see that the difference is that it's something, I mean, there are differences between the permanent, the temporary, the situational, but in the end, they all use a website in the same way. And how you can make something accessible. You can use valid semantic HTML. You can always include alt attributes on your image tags. You can use ARIA attributes if necessary. You can ensure all content is reachable via keyboard. You can ensure content in tab ordering makes sense. Use sufficient color contrast and don't use only color to signify state. But here we have a nice comment that the best ARIA is no ARIA at all. We need to use semantic HTML wherever possible. And you can identify ally issues for remediation by using some tools. So you can use automated tools such as Axe, which is a good start, but only finds 30% of the issues. Guided audits, such as what's built into accessibility insights. We'll look at this tool in a minute. And audits by accessibility testers by companies such as Fabletech Labs. So now it's demo time, but just let me drink some water first because I got thirsty. Okay, sorry. No.
You're muted, Gofo.
Thanks to Michael for telling me. So here we see a site that is an exercise site. I think it's made by college or something, but it's for learning purposes. And now we will check out the Accessibility Insights Chrome extension. So this is a pretty nice tool. It has this thing called FastPass. and it found some issues. So it already flagged some things. But what I wanted to do is so here it explains that it gives a detailed explanation of the HTML element that has a problem, and it gives you some guides to fix it. And there's this thing with, sorry.
I'm seeing demo time. I don't know if my internet is lagging or you need to share another screen. Like the tab you're currently on, we can't see it.
I think you're not sharing your screen.
Yes, I just saw that your screen sharing is paused. Okay, so I have to do a new share. Okay, so now you can see this is the Chrome extension. I opened the accessibility insights for web. And I was just saying that here you can see some problems that it found. So here
you can still see demo time.
Oh my God, okay. Share again. Now
I think there is coming.
Now you can see accessibility insights. Okay, cool. So now you can see that the problems it found, that the image elements don't have alternate text. And now we're going to check another tool that it has. It has this visual helper for tab stops. So navigating with tabs. And if I hit tab, it shows me how I navigate through the page. So looking at the way it navigates, does it seem right to you? The way it moves? And this is pretty neat. So what do you think about this? And it takes you from link to link. So if I click enter on something, it does something, but I don't want it to ruin the diagram. Or I mean, I can do it and I can do it again. So here it shows you the recipe. Okay. So what are your comments about this? That the way it moved between the elements? I'm not hearing any comments, so just go on and say that the way it moves between the elements, it is the correct way, because usually in a site, especially for people in Western countries, you usually navigate from top to bottom and from left to right. So here you can see that it moves in that way, top to bottom and left to right.
Yeah.
So regarding regarding navigation, it's well made. Maybe it has some other accessibility issues, but not navigation problems. And let's see again here, this tool. Okay, why is this working? I don't know. And okay, but why do we care about this? Why do we care about the tab stops and the way it's navigated? Because some people only browse the web with their keyboard. They don't have a mouse to scroll and move up and down. So you want a user to be able to navigate between items easily and intuitively. And there's also the assessment, which okay, I didn't check out how it works, but now it's working and it runs some checks, but it looks quite detailed, all the things it does. So now that we saw a nice example of navigating with just a keyboard, we will see an example that's not so good. So it's this one. But look, this other site we were looking at, if you see, it doesn't even have a title. It says insert title here. And if you look at the HTML, it's not so semantic. It has a bunch of divs. And here it has this as H2, which I don't know, it doesn't look like a header to me, this thing. So it's not so semantic. And here we have another site, and this site, it has a lot of elements. And here, if we run the, oh no, we didn't, why sometimes it does this, okay, we wanted this. If we run the tab stops visual helper, and look here, it has a lot more things going wrong. So color contrast, duplicate ID active, all sorts of stuff.
Too red.
Yeah.
Too red, too many reds.
But again, we will check the visual helper. So I start moving with tab. But wait, maybe I let me click here, but again, it moved a bit weirdly. So it didn't go through all of the things one by one. It moved a bit weirdly through the now it's moving okay. It moves through the elements here, here, here. But you see, the problem is that it started from the top. It moved through everything. It went down, down, down. And then suddenly from here, it made the jump back up. So that doesn't make sense. And here I'm hitting tab and it doesn't take me some, it did a lot of going through some small elements there, which I don't even understand what they are. And now it's on the top again. So this shows that the HTML structure isn't so good, and maybe it has some CSS that makes it look like this. And so it looks visually correct. So you see it, and when you're scrolling with your mouse, you can easily navigate it. But when you are navigating with your keyboard, it takes you up and down. And it's a little weird. Yep, this site has a lot of problems. And yeah, this is a pretty fun tool to use. And let's go back. And there are some more resources here, which I can post them in the Slack later. And about accessibility, this is a nice idea if you want to contribute to an open source project and you don't know what to do. You can run this tool, this accessibility insights tool, or one of the others, and you can make a pull request fixing accessibility issues. And I mean, nobody will refuse a pull request that fixes accessibility issues, because fixed accessibility is always better. The world's least accessible web page. I'm curious what that thing is. They built it. I thought it was a real page and they were making fun of a real page. So that's it for accessibility. And I hope you understood why it's so useful. And for me personally, sometimes I overlook it, but we should never overlook it because it's very important.
And some companies too don't even care so much about it. Where I was working before, they didn't care much about accessibility during developing the softwares.
Unfortunately, it's one of the things that if you want to develop fast and move forward fast, it's one of the things that falls through the cracks, and people don't care so much.
Do you know some of the HTML tags that you rather use area label than semantic HTML? I don't know when to use area label.
I think the area labels, they are used when you can't convey what you want with the semantic HTML and I mean area label, there is, we can just, since we have some time, we can look at it. I can share my screen. Share. Yep, so here, for example, it says that it labels an interactive element because sometimes the default accessible name of an element is missing or does not accurately display in the contents. And there is no content visible in the DOM that can be associated with the object to give it meaning. So a common example is a button containing an SVG or icon font. Of course, here it says you should be used without any text.
Yeah. Okay.
Or you could use it to label it that the element is not visible, where text that label where text that could label the element is not visible.
Okay.
So I guess you use it if you don't have something very obvious like a div with some text. Okay, there it's obvious, but yeah, here you need it because the button doesn't contain any text. It just contains this SVG. If that answered your question, Chimaka, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I did.
I once saw area label. As an example, there were like two navbars in a page, and the area label said like main navbar and secondary navbar to make a distinction.
Okay, that also sounds like a nice example. Yeah, so any comments or other questions or something about accessibility or how it's been treated at your jobs or boot camps or in any other experience you've had?
In fact, I have a colleague now that she's not blind, but she has a severe illness in her eyes and she can't see very well, and she's using a screen reader, so I can hear her using the screen software, the reading software all the time. And yeah, I became aware how important it is to account for accessibility since I met her. And I also found really interesting that I didn't know that some countries have already regulations for websites to be accessible as part of their law. It's also very important, I think. It doesn't put the burden to the company, to private hands, but it's a law, and that I find awesome.
Yep, I think it's in the EU, it's also mandatory. For example, if you want to get money from the EU to make a site, you need it to be accessible. Money, I'm talking about these, what do they call them in English? For the special money that the EU gives out to help businesses, etc. So if you want to make grants, thank you very much, Chimaka. So if you want to make an e-shop using one of these grants or something else, it has to be accessible.
It's definitely only the governments that can persuade companies to take it seriously. If not, everyone will just be skipping it and be hoping that they don't need it in the future. It's actually not such a good practice to not consider that. All right. I guess that's it for the module. For this week's issue, you're basically continuing from where you stopped last week. So are there any questions you have about it or any other ideas you have concerning your app totally? Are you planning to refactor this week, or are you done? Are you done with the whole refactoring that you want to do?
I think there's a bug, but no refactoring, or maybe as we go forward, if we have time and feel the need of refactoring, we can do so. Otherwise, I think it's going to be good to fix the bug and continue with the issues and take into account accessibility. And if we have any questions, we can reach you in Slack and bombard you with questions for the last week, especially me.
Yes, please. So during our own last week, we came across that like changing the title of your app in index.html, adding a favicon, maybe a shopping cart favicon, so it will not be the normal generic React favicon. And then also adding a meta tag, a meta tag image, so that when you post the link of your app somewhere and your foods, they'll see that image and not the React image. Yeah. And these are some of the things you can just like take care of during the last week.
Thank you, Chamaka.
Chamaka, that's a really great idea about the metadata, because I guess you will want to share the app on your social media when you're done, and it will look nice.
Yeah, to look more professional in the meta tags, the description, title, and all of them. All right. Thank you, guys. I guess we've come to the end of it. We are getting into the last week of this cohort. Oh my God. When did we start? When did we start? I'm already doing the last issue.
And I'm so excited to see the final version, because I like the design so much and the icons.
Yeah, I also do our
Me too.
last retrospective, last demo, last retro next Sunday. Let me quickly check who is taking the office hours, because we'll do the last office hours and then code review, just like, okay, I'm taking the code review and Ellie to do the office hours. All right. All right, that's it. See you guys on Slack. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.